Good.
Oh, no, it's gonna be excellent.
Thank y'all.
A little bit.
I've got some you gave me for last time.
Did you bring an extra?
Huh?
Did you bring an extra?
No.
Is she recording this? Yep.
The last time I introduced John in Reno, I got COVID.
He gave it to me, folks.
He says I gave it to him. He gave it to me, but I made him wear a mask.
Protection.
I'll show you. I'll get you first. Now it is being recorded, so Commander.
You're live.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's 3 people watching.
What do you think? I was just gonna say.
John.
Yeah.
Just tell him I'm the best looking guy here.
We're almost done with it.
Thank you.
I just moved. Text Joanne. They just moved me up. I'm ready. Jennifer, is this recording on? I guess it is. I'm ready when you are.
All right. Mr. President, members, it's my honor this morning to introduce a very good friend of mine, a fellow Louisianian that I've known for a number of years. Attorney John B. Wells is a retired Navy commander, surface warfare. He's a disabled veteran who served from 1972 until 1994. During his career, John was assigned to 6 different ships and several shore commands. He's qualified in all aspects of surface warfare, including command at sea. John is no stranger to NASDVA. He was with us in Reno last year. He gave us a very good briefing on different legal aspects involved with veterans. And I'm interested in hearing what he has to say today. He served as a special court-martial convening authority, member, senior member, and witness before administrative boards and court-martials, so he's very familiar with military law. He's a hustler. While he was on active duty in the Navy, he attended law school at night, and he was a member of the law review staff, and he contributed to several law school publications. And then when he retired, he settled in Slidell, Louisiana, which is northwest or northeast Louisiana, and he opened a general law practice that emphasizes military and veterans law. He's represented military members and veterans throughout the country. He is at home in both state and federal courts, and he travels often to come here to Washington, D.C. For cases that take place here. One of his successes was to argue for the inclusion of Blue Water veterans in the Agent Arms Registry. That was a big, big victory, as many of us know. He's been admitted to practice before the Supreme Court of several states, before the Supreme Court of the United States. He's, in addition, he was admitted to the United States Court of Appeals for the 5th Federal and District of Columbia Circuits. He's also a member of the United States Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces and all service courts. Interestingly, to me, anyway, he's admitted to practice before the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims and the United States Court of Federal Claims. He's also admitted to many federal district courts, including the District of Columbia. Very highly qualified attorney, great Navy veteran, great friend of the Louisiana Department of Veterans Affairs. Please welcome Mr. John Will.
Joey, you better not give me COVID this time.
I promise I won't.
Well, it looks like I've got a little extra time, which is good. However, your president said I have to be brief, but you know what lawyers' briefs are like, so you know, we'll be there and we're going to do it. I think most of you have heard of me. I'm not near as bad as they say I am, but you know, I think we're all in the same business of trying to help veterans and help it. You know, really the population at large, because our veterans are a very important part of our population, and as goes veterans, goes our society. I want to talk a little bit about military veterans advocacy, and somebody's supposed to brief me on this. Let's see if it works. Hey, there we are. Maybe. Okay. And that's me. That's my phone number. Oh, phone number's not on there. That's our website. It's at the bottom. It is? Yeah, I was trying to hide it. But that's our website. Please check us out. And my email is on there as well. Who are we? We litigate, legislate, and educate. We're all volunteers. My chief of staff back there, Mike Caventus, say hey, hi, Mike. He's a volunteer. Everybody on our board is a volunteer. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on, Instagram and a bunch of other stuff that I don't know about. We're not on TikTok. And won't be. Okay? We're founded in 2012. We're a nonprofit, national outreach, national impact. We're taking members starting in 2020. Currently have about 1,900 members. And you don't have to be military to join, so Air Force is welcome as well. What do? We litigate, legislate, educate. What does that mean? That means we come up here, we beat up Congress, okay, and we're well known on the Hill. Legislate. We litigate. We'll sue the service secretaries, my personal favorite, Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and of course we educate by outreach, coming to talk like folks like you. We also train attorneys on how to do veterans law, because it's different law than any other law you ever want to practice. Why did we do it? You know, we started out as the Blue Water Navy, folks, as Joey mentioned. And in 2019, we won that Procopio case that extended benefits to about 93,000 veterans. At first we thought, geez, we're going to be a one-hit wonder. But now, as it goes along, we found that there was other needs and other things that we could do it. So, most recently, we were able to incorporate into the PACT Act, Guam, American Samoa, Johnson Island, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. This year, this Congress, we're looking at Panama and Okinawa, and I'll discuss that in a minute. But what about the Blue Water Navy? You see that big line up there, the bold one? Prior to 2002, if the ship crossed that line, they got the presumption of exposure. And in 2002, General Counsel's office said, nope, you got to touch land. Got to be in the sovereign territory of Vietnam. We went to Procopio and said, hey guys, Territorial Sea is part of the sovereign territory of Vietnam. We quoted all the treaties and so on and so forth, the court agreed. So that red line you see on there is called a baseline. That intersects the outermost islands, dash lines is Territorial Sea. We're looking as part of our legislative agenda to extend it back to the way it was in between 1991 and 2002. And by the way, I think everybody should have a note-taking guide. We thought, since we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff and I'm going to go through it pretty fast, that you might find it handy to keep this at your desk rather than in your wastebasket. Now, Benjamin's going to put his in a wastebasket, I know that. That's all right. PACT Act. That's the first comprehensive toxic exposure law. Covers herbicide, radiation, burn pits. Don't get me started on Camp Lejeune. It's a good start, but that's all it is a good start. My concern is, as we bring this 3.2 million veterans into the system, will the VA be able to handle them? As of, and this number was just updated, it's down to about 32,000 now, but as of the end of the year, 2022, there's still 40,000 Blue Water Navy claims outstanding. And folks, that's one heck of a lot. What does PAC do? Yeah, I'm going to go through this pretty fast, just keep it as a desk reference. It does expand health care for contingency ops, the ones listed below, on the dates listed below. Kind of confusing. Why did Congress do it this way? So that they could level load the money. And that's, unfortunately what always comes down to is money. We expanded the eligibility for health care for others in combat service, which you have to have a certain medal, and that's probably fair. Campaign-specific medal, Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal, etc., etc. Revamp the toxic exposure presumption process. And this gets real important when you have folks coming in and trying to say, hey, do I get a presumption or not? Because a lot of times you don't. Now, radiation, NOE-TOC. Everybody know where NOE-TOC is? I see the general nodding there.
I was specific to man. I actually do know. Yeah.
Okay, good. And in the 70s, after I think 40 nuclear tests, somewhere about 25 megatons, we sent folks out to clean it up, take the first 12 inches, bury it, and we let them have very good personal protective equipment. We flip flops, cut-offs, tank tops. Yeah, we got pictures of it. Some of them wore sunglasses, though. Palmyra, Spain. Air Force B-52 and KC-135 decided to occupy the same airspace. Didn't end well. And 4 thermonuclear weapons were dropped on Spain. And they got really upset with us. I don't know why. But we had to send people in to clean that up. And then, of course, there was fire in a B-52 at Thule Air Force Base, Greenland. All those are now picked up. And we fought for years to get all that stuff in. Herbicide exposure, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, okay, Guam, American Samoa. Now, one of the problems that we're addressing is Guam starts on January 9th, 1962. How do we get that date? That was the date they started doing it in Vietnam. Guam is not Vietnam. It's actually quite a few, Pacific Command there will tell you, it's quite a few miles away. So we have a Navy Public Works document that shows, they started spraying in August of 1958. Okay, we're trying to get that done. Congressman Moylan of Guam is going to be introducing that bill shortly. And, I don't think there's going to be very much opposition to it. It's only going to cost, it's a negligible cost, really. I mean, we're talking about, a couple of dozen folks is all. But, it's important to those folks. So we need to take care of it. Additional diseases for herbicide exposure. I can't pronounce that. Monoclonal something or other of undetermined significance. It looks to me like undetermined pronunciation. But effective October 2022, it was covered. Hypertension. That's going to be a mess because it's supposedly effective on October 2026. But we're taking cases in saying, look, Congress has recognized that this is a problem. So even though the law isn't backdated, the Secretary, via his broad discretionary authority, can go ahead and cover it. And we haven't gotten an answer on that, but that's our story. We're sticking to it. Retroactivity. Man, that is what a great piece of legalese. There's going to be a test on that afterwards from Marines. It's
Make sure you have pictures.
yeah. We'll have pictures, and if you do well, we're going to give you some crayons as a dessert. Okay? What it says is NEMR does not apply. Okay, and that's basically it. Is that illegal? Probably is. If Congress can overrule it. NEMR is what they did. Weren't good effective dates. Now you see it. We've broken it up again. For different diseases, different dates, and again, is they're just trying to level load it because of the money. Now here's the interesting one. Rule of construction. How many in here are lawyers? Okay, a couple. All right. Benjamin, did you get this part?
Yeah.
Okay. What this says, I think, is that if you had a claim in for, let's say, Guam, herbicide exposure on Guam, and it's been sitting there for 3 or 4 years. All right, the effective date on Guam was not until August 10th of 2022. Can you go back and do it for the date of the original claim? My interpretation of this is yes. However, the board, I'm not very popular at the board. The board has taken the approach of, we'll give it to you back to August 10th, and then we're not going to address anything before that. They don't deny it, they just don't address it. All right, look, we've got a case pending right now, Court of Appeals for Federal Claims on this issue, okay, and we hope to get it addressed. But as I read this, you know, the Secretary has the authority, in fact, cannot deny a claim just because of the effective date of the legislation. Okay, pro-veteran canon. Guys, if you take nothing else away from this, remember the pro-veteran canon. Because basically it says in areas where there's any kind of tie, the veteran wins. Oh, gee, it's not a tie. That's all right, the veteran should still win. Because any interpretation of any statute, any regulation, should apply this canon of construction. And there's a lot of canon constructions, like, you know, the bill means what it says, each word says this, Congress knows what they're doing. That's not a popular one. But this one has been around since 1943. Warning, we just lost 2 cases at the Supreme Court. They weren't our cases, but we filed amicus briefs on this pro-veterans canon. So we don't know, in light of the current makeup on the Supreme Court, whether or not they're going to look towards overruling Boone or Henderson. We don't think so, but it is a problem. All right, what's next? Now we're going to get into the meat of it. Hey, how am I doing, sir? Am I doing pretty good on time? And I still get the old ladies' time too, right?
Nope.
Nope.
She'll show up.
She'll show up. Earlier effective date for Guam, I mentioned. Herbicide benefits for Panama. Why Panama? We got 152 pages of shipping documents showing that the stuff was shipped there. Okay? The Panama Canal Zone. Where was it? We found it in the Census Bureau. How did it get there? We don't know, but it got there. And so we print that out, and we have a bill that's going to go back, and it looks like Congressman Salazar is going to introduce it, and that's going to happen soon. Herbicide benefits for Okinawa. Oh, gee, there was no Agent Orange on Okinawa, was there? Way out there was. We have an Air Force stock control NCO who actually inventoried it back about 69, 70. 25,000 barrels were stored at Kadena Air Force Base. They were bringing it back in from Vietnam and moving it to Johnson Island. Well, there was a waypoint, and it was Kadena. But they also used it. And folks, I'm here to tell you, they used it all over the country, probably all over the world. And so I have one of the guys on our board actually spray this stuff. We have pictures of 1981, them digging up barrels on Marine Corps Air Station Futenma. I bet you didn't know that, John. You did? Okay. The Kadena Air Force Base. They ceded some property back to the Japanese. Decided to do a soccer pitch for the kids. About 100 barrels of Agent Orange. So, yeah, that's a problem. Okay. We make a lot of rulemaking requests, and this is where number 4 comes in. It's timeline for VA response to those rulemaking requests. The VA wrote the code. Got to give them credit. When we put in a rulemaking request and they disapproved or denied that rulemaking request, we sued them. I said, don't want that. So now, last few have said, we're going to approve the rulemaking request. We just never issued rules. So our legislative request on this, and we could definitely use your support when the bill comes in, is put a timeline in. Give them a couple of years, but at some point or another, we have to do this. We have to get an answer. Appellate reform, we were one of the few organizations to oppose the Appeals Modernization Act. We thought it was clunky and it didn't work. It was clunky and it didn't work. That's not true. They have been some good things out of it. But we think that we need to align the board more with other federal adjudication authorities. Use administrative law judges that are qualified, certified by the Office of Personnel Management, do scheduling orders, do all the things that you know, your MSPB, Merit Systems Protection Board, EOC, Social Security do, and we can help move this along. I listened to the chairman's report. He's agreed to meet with me. He may change his mind. But one of the things that they didn't mention is about 70% of the cases that are appealed out of the board to the Court of Appeals of Veterans Claims are remanded back. Basically saying, hey, court, the court's saying, hey, board, you messed up. So, you know, if we only touch these things once, it's going to be a lot better. Extend Blue Water Navy line, I mentioned that. Clear and unmistakable error provisions because of one of the cases we lost. That's gone into the appellate reform. Fort McClellan, we got to take care of those folks. Now, the PACT Act did require study, but my recommendation is, as soon as we get the results of that study, is to do some presumptive protocols, and we'll be ready to launch on that, and I need to get with Alabama on that. And covered dependents. We take our spouses, our kids, and we take them to places, and they're exposed to the same things that we are. We need to take care of them. Not compensation necessarily, but medical coverage at least. 2011, Congress passed the Janie Emsiger Act, which did that for Camp Lejeune. That's not this mess we got now. Okay. They just said basically, hey, if you're a dependent and you have one of these diseases, we're going to cover your medical. And I think that's fair. And that's part of one of our legislative priorities for this year. That's me. I say we litigate. An ugly guy there at the court. That's what we look like. We legislate. Capitol Police will kind of let us on the Capitol Hill sometimes. We educate. We have all these kinds of seminars throughout the country. And look, it even got us to the White House. Secret Service pulled me out right after that. There's one thing that's not on a slide, and it's because we developed it just recently. And I've talked to some of you about it and got some pretty good response. Folks, suicide in the veterans community is terrible. We lose more folks to suicide than we have combat in the 21st century, probably in the 20th and 21st combined before we get this thing turned around. We have to do something with it. It's our sacred honor, sacred duty. We're partnering with a Canadian organization on something they call the O2 Project, a day out, day outside. It's not going to tell you to go do whitewater rafting or rock climbing or whatever, but it's going to say go out and do something. What we're going to be doing is compiling a list of all these organizations out there that do something. Second Saturday in June, is going to be the day. We may not have it running up very well for 2023, but our goal is by 2024 to have it really up and going. We're asking Congress and the Canadian Parliament to pass a resolution recognizing that day and urging everybody to participate. And this isn't just a veterans thing. You can have, certainly dependents are welcome. Anybody can do it, okay? Now, depends on what you want. My idea of the day outside is sitting on the pool deck, smoking a cigar, watching my wife in the garden, okay? But a lot of other people want to go out and do things. Nature is an excellent way to take care of post-traumatic stress. You can commune with nature. If you've ever seen a sunset at sea, or with Marines, marching through, doing push-ups, on a lake or Dublin Brook, the Army, same way, the Air Force, seeing the sun come up over the Officers Club, or the golf course. It has a good effect. I'm sorry, Air Force guys. If you ever learn to land on ships, I'll be nicer to you. Guys and girls. I said guys is always generic nowadays. I think that I'm about ready to get the cane and pull it off, so I'd like to open up for questions. We will be coming out to you and asking for your support on this Go Outside Day. So, does anybody have any questions?
I do.
Not you.
No, I didn't. First a comment, then a question, but it actually is motivating to be outdoors, and for me, as a Marine, to walk by and see Marines in a formation doing push-ups. That's just the truth. It's fulfilling. So all of us have the different things that we connect to that help. And we need to find those things for all of our services and all of our veterans. The question I have, I don't know if you can go back to your what's next slide. I think it was number 5, extend the blue water line. What you went too fast.
Oh, on page 5, I thought you meant.
No, to the, what's next, I think is what's the future,
Yep, there we go.
right there.
Yeah, that's
Number 6,
a good looking guy though, right?
number 6 on the previous slide. Thank you. Extend the blue water line to the original Vietnam Services metal line. And I won't try to get you to go back to the big. So that was 100 plus miles offshore.
In some places, it was pretty close to 100 nautical miles, which, by the way, the Australians currently recognize it at 100 nautical miles as well.
Right. I'm just thinking, though, if the intent is, and I'm kind of channeling my good friend from Virginia, Dan, that if the intent was to help those who are exposed and had issues with their health because of Agent Orange exposure, I get it when you're within close, if you're touching it, got it. If you're within where the wind is going to get on you, got it. If you're 100 nautical miles offshore and your ship never went farther or closer than 50 nautical miles, I'm just saying, I don't understand why we would want to get it extended. That's my personal question.
You know, I am so glad you asked that question. I was going to plant it in somebody's head to do that. Here's the thing about the Agent Orange. It was mixed with petroleum, diesel fuel actually, so it would better adhere to the plant life. Well, Vietnam is a fairly rainy tropical area. It would wash off into the sea, okay? Plus we sprayed all the riverbanks. And, you know, I've got a picture, I don't have it with me today, but it shows the discharge plume coming out of the Mekong River. Now, the hydrologists for the South China Sea will tell us that it will go out 150 kilometers in just a couple of weeks, right? And there was a spill from the Diamond Shoals plank on the Passaic River in New Jersey. New Jersey, I don't think anybody noticed.
Some people are paying attention.
They found that in seafood over 100 nautical miles ashore. Look, petroleum floats, folks. I'm from Louisiana. Petroleum float, yeah, we saw that. Okay. And it gets moved around by the tides, the currents, and the river discharges. In fact, we sent a lot of the BP oil spill over to our friends in Florida and Texas. Okay. It got out there. And what happens then is that it's not the wind, it's the water. It comes in through the intake for the distillation plant. Okay, and at the time, everybody was using basically a flash type or evaporation type distilling plant. You know, basic high school science. You hit the water with steam goes up, you condense it back, you know, from gas to liquid. But the Agent Orange molecules, and the Australians actually found this out, would attach to that water vapor and would come back and it's not removed by the distillation process. So these guys got a straight shot Agent Orange into the water. Plus, aircraft carriers, helicopter carriers, whatever. You know, there were daily flights that went into Da Nang. Plus, we were doing close air support. Okay, you know, I mean, the Marine close air support. Let's face it; those guys got down below treetop level. All right, and you know, the debris from the explosions and so on and so forth would come up, get on the bottom of the plane. Plus, they'd go through the clouds of the storm. I mean, Navy, they were at treetop level. Air Force, 50,000 feet. Okay, but you know, I got to stop doing that. I'm gonna get stuff thrown at me here. But on a serious note, you know, the Air Force too would be going there and flying through clouds of that stuff. Now, are we looking at, you know, somebody that was at 50,000 feet? No. But if you're there down at treetop level, God, that stuff can get. We get in and get on your planes. So I'll be right with you. Cod flights, carrier on board deliveries come from Da Nang once a day or more to the aircraft carrier. Da Nang is one of the better areas to spray. People walking through it, getting on their shoes, and we get all kinds of cross-contamination. I'll bet you didn't expect that long an answer, did you?
No,
Okay. Satisfied? Yes, sir.
I'll double down on what Hammer said here. Obviously, I will. What we've got here is a classic case of
be kind.
Don't be kind.
what we've got here, I think, is a classic case of misattribution bias. So, you know, if you look at the PACT Act,
Mhm.
the same percentage of veterans over the age of 65 have high blood pressure as regular old civilians. It's the exact same percentage.
Yep.
This is, and yet we're gonna say that that's the fault of the American taxpayer, and we're gonna push a bunch of disability benefits out the door, which we know rob people of vitality. We know it causes people to separate from the labor market. There's all kinds of negative effects here, and I'm very skeptical personally of this whole idea of 100 miles out you're getting a significant dose of Agent Orange. Now this, if you're going to do veteran advocacy and you're going to say that every veteran deserves to be 100% disabled, then just say that. But
Well,
this seems like
And I can't
I'm
say
concerned
that.
here about the morality of what you're doing.
I can't say that because I don't agree that every veteran should be 100% disabled. Okay, I'm 70%. Okay, and I can't see my going much over that. You know, the problem is, and hypertension is probably a good example. It's one of the ones that I've had problems with, to be honest with you. But Institute of Medicine found a definite correlation between hypertension and herbicide exposure. I mean, you know, I have a lot of problems with that myself. 100 nautical miles, like I say, was there. You know, it went out further. Look at Fatima. I'm sorry, I got that name wrong, but it's the radiation meltdown in Japan. I mean, we got radiation on the coast of California, for God's sakes. So the stuff will float out. And we'll go into the evaporator distillation plant. I was an engineer on some of these ships, and that was my equipment. So, and God, I've steamed throughout the world, I've steamed through pools of petroleum and other stuff that we were able to identify. You know, it's just the nature of the beast. Is 90 miles better than 100? Maybe, I don't know. The Australians went and took the entire theater of combat, which is kind of what we were in. They're the ones that did a lot of the research on it, and both the Institute of Medicine and, you know, Congress and our organization has picked it up. Cost-wise, we're looking at about 55,000 people that were outside the territorial sea. Most of them on carriers. And again, you have the cross-contamination issues. Of that, we think about 25,000 actually are getting picked up because the carrier and other ships pulled into Guam, submarines, you know, as well. So we're probably looking at 30 to 35,000 folks that will be covered by extending that line. Now, what's that going to cost? Now, over 10 years, we're estimating between $500 and $600 million. And our estimates come pretty close to what the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, comes up with. So we'll see.
Next question.
Yes, next question. Yes,
Hey,
sir.
good morning.
I'm sorry, that's the end of the questions.
Oh, wait, it's a good one for you. I'm going to risk opening the floodgates and ask you about Camp Lejeune. Because you mentioned earlier that I shouldn't get you started, but I'm going to anyway. We're all dealing with Camp Lejeune cases in our offices. When folks come to you in light of the Camp Lejeune Justice Act, what kind of advice are you giving them? And how do you recommend that we all proceed with those types of issues that we're all facing?
Well, the problem is, and being an attorney, I hate to say this, but, you know, we've got some attorneys out there that are really taking advantage of gaming the system. When this came up as part of the PACT Act, we had recommended that they put a cap on attorney's fees of about the 20% level, which is, you know, what you have for the normal VA case. That never made it into the bill. So as a result, you have attorneys out there charging whatever percentage their state bar will allow them to do. 40% is not unusual. I've heard of cases going up higher, even to 60%. Senator Sullivan has a bill in Congress that I haven't seen the language on it yet, but basically it's going to limit those attorney's fees, and we're going to support that. We may not agree with the percentage he puts in, because they were talking like 2%. No attorney's going to take that case for 2%. But, you know, we certainly support the concept. What advice do we give them? Shop wisely. Stay away from the folks that are out there on the TVs saying, you know, hey, I don't know what Camp Lejeune, I'll get you $10 billion and all the rest of that stuff. You know, shop wisely. If you're going to get an attorney for the initial claim, you shouldn't even need an attorney. Just put it in. Okay? Now, if it's denied, now you need an attorney. That's kind of like with normal veterans claims. Look, there's a lot of things, that a VSO can do and do well. If it's check the box, do something that's already taken care of, already accepted, you don't need to hire an attorney. Where you have to hire an attorney if it gets something that's going to be complicated, like, for example, the Blue Water and the appropriate case. Now, okay, the next thing that happens is I get shoved off this thing here, right?
Is there another question? We can do one more. I don't see a question. Okay. Now, I'm just going to comment. The attorneys that care about the veteran and their families and the effects on that veteran family, they should do it for 2% or pro bono. Personal opinion. So, okay.
Yeah, we got 82, man.
Come on down.
See if I can do this without falling. Yeah.
We're able to take some questions. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. We're going to take you keep the coin. You get to keep the coin.
I get to keep the coin? All right.
All right.
Thanks.
And thanks for all you do. Thanks for your flexibility this morning, too.
Our next speakers are our sponsors today.